You're doing 90 miles per hour. The road ahead is ending, and there are 6 police cars behind you. What do you do? These drivers had to find out the hard way. On October 4th of 2025, ASP Trooper Corbin Rideout spotted a black Dodge Charger in Garland County that had just been linked to a robbery at the Hot Springs Walmart. He ran up behind it and tried a routine traffic stop, and the Charger actually pulled over, calm and cooperative, for about 30 seconds. Then all 3 people inside decided cooperation wasn't really for them, and the driver punched it. Rideout gave chase and pushed 140 miles per hour and still couldn't close the gap, which meant the Charger was easily north of 150, probably touching 160 or 170 at its peak. 3 people in that car, 3 people completely convinced they were going to walk away from a Walmart robbery clean. They were very much not walking away from anything. The Charger eventually spun out and punched into the tree line off Highway 70, and the scene at the crash was its own disaster. The driver, 25-year-old Cavanta Hampton, bailed into the woods and made it about as far as you'd expect before troopers tracked him down. His passengers, Malachi Jackson and Carly Berry, were still at the wreck trying to figure out how to get out of the car. Between all 3 of them, they'd stolen over $3,000 in merchandise. Hampton caught the felony fleeing, the criminal mischief, and the traffic violations on top of the robbery. Cooked all 3 of them for a Walmart haul. That crew thought having numbers gave them an advantage. The next driver went solo, and his own engine made the decision for him before the trooper even had to. Back in May of 2022, ASP Trooper Jacob Price got flagged about a black Chevy Camaro rolling through Columbia County on expired tags. Not a warrant, not a weapon, not a robbery, expired tags. This driver looked at that situation and decided a 150 miles per hour chase across the interstate was the smarter play. Price followed him onto the highway, and both cars climbed fast. He tried to pit the Camaro early but had to abort when traffic cut across the lane, and the suspect used that small window to get some distance. What he couldn't control was his own engine, which started failing mid-chase and dropped his speed right into the window Price needed. The trooper lined him up and put him clean into a ditch, and the whole thing was over. The suspect climbed out of that ditch and immediately started asking why he even got pulled over. Bro, you ran from expired tags at 150 miles per hour, forced a trooper to abort a pit because of oncoming traffic, led a chase across the county in the middle of the night, and you're standing in a ditch in the dark questioning probable cause? His name was never publicly released, but the charges almost certainly included felony fleeing, and whatever else comes after, you've completely wasted everyone's evening over a sticker on a license plate. Some runners have a plan and it falls apart on the road. The next guy actually had a scheme, got his street racing partner to draw all the heat, and still ended up in handcuffs before the night was over. On July 8th of 2023, a Florida Highway Patrol officer was on I-4 in Hillsborough County when he spotted an orange Ford Mustang and a white Porsche Panamera going neck and neck at genuinely dangerous speeds. The Porsche driver's whole play was to let the Mustang absorb the police attention while he quietly faded back into traffic. The officer pulled the Mustang, waited a beat, watched the Porsche blast past anyway, and started the chase immediately. The Porsche pushed north of 150 miles per hour and carried the chase through traffic and onto narrow western Florida streets. He even survived a pit attempt, which probably made him feel like he had a real shot at getting away. Then he pulled over and signaled surrender, which was honestly the smartest decision he made all night. His racing partner in the Mustang was long gone by then, because of course he was. When officers reached the driver, something was clearly wrong with him. He wasn't just shaken from the chase and the near pit at speed. He appeared to be actively overdosing. Police believed he'd swallowed what they described as a lethal amount of drugs mid-chase, trying to destroy the evidence before he got searched. His partner had bailed, the stash was already inside him, and the medical team had to stabilize him before anyone could even process the arrest properly. No cap, swallowing your own evidence is one of the worst field decisions anyone has ever made on a Florida highway. And this state has an incredibly high bar for that sort of thing. That driver at least had the sense to pull over when he was done. The next suspect needed a pit maneuver that sent both cars airborne, a 200-yard foot sprint through a suburb, and a full search of the surrounding area before he finally decided to stop. On April 5th of 2020, ASP Trooper Russell Aiken was sitting stationary on I-49 South when his radar lit up on a white 2009 BMW doing 125 in a 70 zone. The driver had already clocked the cruiser and was pushing harder before Aiken even had his lights on, climbing well past 150 miles per hour as he tried to open distance on the highway. Aiken stayed right with him as the suspect weaved through cars, then bailed off the interstate and dragged the chase into the Fayetteville suburbs, probably figuring the tight residential streets and off-ramp layout would shake the trooper. They didn't. A PIT attempt behind the Ozark Iron Gym sent both cars off the ground, and the suspect survived it, walked away from the wreck, and then just started running on foot through the neighborhood, putting in about 200 yards before giving up completely. The driver was 32-year-old Michael Nightingale, a career criminal who turned out to be a wanted absconder, someone who'd been ducking his parole officer. Getting pulled over meant going straight back inside, so he ran, which only made everything worse. He earned 36 months for felony fleeing, DWI, and reckless driving among other charges. And then in December of 2022, he ate that same L again for boating while intoxicated. Some people just genuinely cannot help themselves. Nightingale at least put up a real fight before it was over. The next rider had the speed and the moves to potentially escape and let a traffic circle handle the entire situation instead. On May 27th of 2023, ASP Trooper Kyle Sheldon was patrolling Saline County when a sport bike came through at nearly 150 miles per hour and didn't even try to hide it. Sheldon gave chase as the rider threaded through a construction zone and cut between semi-trucks on the highway, actually building enough of a gap to briefly lose the trooper in the dense traffic. And here's the thing, he was genuinely close to getting away with it. Had he taken one clean exit at the right moment or ducked into a residential street, this might have gone differently. Instead, he hit a roundabout, misjudged his entry speed, lost control, and clipped a silver car on the way down. By the time Sheldon cleared the truck traffic and arrived, the rider was already on the ground, the bike was finished, and the chase had ended because of a traffic circle. Not a pit, not a spike strip, a roundabout. The rider, 27-year-old Jacob Costley, was charged with fleeing and reckless driving. Officers then found his motorcycle was unregistered and uninsured, so the charge sheet just kept building on itself. The people in the silver car were unhurt, which was genuinely the only clean outcome in this entire sequence. Costley at least cooperated once he was on the ground. The next driver stepped out of a wrecked car in the dark, holding something in his hand, in front of officers who'd just spent several miles running at 140 miles per hour and expected that to go smoothly. On June 30th of 2024, ASP Trooper Tanner Crossland was patrolling outside Little Rock when a blacked-out Dodge Charger came through at 140 miles per hour. Crossland gave chase and Trooper Trey Davis eventually took over the lead, following the suspect off the highway and onto the narrow street southwest of the city before the car finally crashed. When the scene settled, the driver stepped out of the wreck holding something in his hand. Officers already had their hands on their weapons, and the tension in that moment was real. Thankfully, the troopers held their composure long enough to clock that it was a phone. The driver was a teenager, later identified as Torbio Ruiz, and the fact that this situation didn't end far worse is entirely because those officers stayed completely composed under genuine pressure. The Charger was stolen. Open alcohol containers were inside. Ruiz tested positive for intoxication. He was a minor, he was drunk, he was in a stolen car at 140 miles per hour, and he walked out of a crash site at night holding an object in his hand in front of armed troopers. The charge list, felony fleeing, reckless driving, theft by receiving, possession by a minor, and underage DUI, doesn't even fully capture how washed every single decision was from the moment he got in that car to the moment those cuffs went on. The next driver didn't get the option to walk out on his own terms. His car handled that part for him, and the landing was 30 yards away. On August 18 of 2024, multiple 911 calls came in about a silver Lexus with California tags weaving through the I-40 traffic at over 100 miles per hour. ASP Trooper Trey Fales got to the area just in time to cut the car off as it came around a semi-truck. The suspect hit the gas anyway, and Fales had to push close to 140 just to stay in range. The Lexus was pulling away above 150. At some point, the Lexus lost control, rolled, and the driver, Kendall Jett, was ejected and found 30 yards from the wreck. 30 yards. He survived it, which somehow defied the physics of the situation, and was airlifted to the hospital to be treated for severe leg injuries. The fact that he was alive at all after being thrown that far from a car moving that fast is genuinely remarkable, and it doesn't reflect well on a single choice he made that night. Officers searched the wreck and found 39 grams of marijuana, so drug possession got stacked right on top of the felony fleeing charges while Jett was still in the air. He came out of surgery already facing felonies, and still had to physically recover before he could even start dealing with the legal end of everything he'd done. Between the 911 calls, the 150 miles per hour weaving through traffic, the rollover, the ejection, and the drug charge waiting for him at the hospital, this whole situation was cooked at every single checkpoint from the first radar ping to the last charge filed.